Roger, standing by 22. Now, do you realize what the conditions are out there?
Hey everyone, History Mystery Man here, coming to you today from my hometown, Toledo, Ohio. A really nice little West Toledo neighborhood here. Wanted to thank all my supporters. The first Edmund Fitzgerald video did so well. I'm so proud and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. This would be a good time to encourage you to like, share, and certainly subscribe. I want to keep doing this. I don't get paid for this job, so in order for me to keep doing it, if you would hit that subscribe button, I would be forever grateful. Now, the second video was all the clips I took out of the first video. You know, you come back with an hour's worth of footage and you can't put it all in there. You got to get it down to 20 minutes or whatever. So I'm gonna sort of show you the unedited version. Just gonna string some clips together of Captain Darrell Walton and hear some of the other thoughts that were in his mind that particular day. Now, I wanted to clear up one thing. I did mention in the first video that no crew members were ever found. I meant that no crew members were ever found from the surface. As we know, there was one crew member found on the bottom of the Lake Superior lake floor, right next to the Fitzgerald. This person is wearing a life jacket, interestingly enough, but there is one person found from the wreckage laying on the bottom of Lake Superior next to the great ship. Also wanted to mention William Spangler, who was from Toledo, Ohio, one of the crew members that went down with the Fitzgerald. If you noticed, my favorite part of the video, by the way, at the end when we go through each and every man on the Edmund Fitzgerald, at the end when the bell chimes, that's the actual bell from the Fitzgerald, by the way. We go through each and every crew member. You may have noticed that some of the crew members, we had no images for them. One of those crew members was William Spangler from Toledo, Ohio. Couldn't find an image. If you ever find an image of William Spangler, I'd love to see it. That's what brings it all home to me. You can see the little, the names go across the ticker, but until you put their image with it, well, that's when it brings it all home for me. Somebody loved William Spangler, and William Spangler loved people on this earth, and we want to give him his proper due. If you ever find an image, I'd be grateful to see it. What I do know is that William Spangler lived right there, here in West Toledo. That tiny little ranch house here in West Toledo, that is where William Spangler lived. So, I hope you'll hang on to the very end. I'm going to reveal my thoughts on what happened to the Edmund Fitzgerald. As I mentioned, my thoughts are always evolving, and I've sort of come to my own conclusions on what happened to the mighty Fitz, and I'm going to reveal those at the end, so we hope you will stick around for that. I do appreciate all your support. I am forever grateful. Please enjoy part 2 of my Edmund Fitzgerald tribute.
And if you check the charts, they got to go right past Chummy Bank, which is right there by Caribou Shoals. And the soundings now in the 1910 or 20s, that was they used was a lead weight with a rope. They didn't have the good stuff.
That's
now.
One of the facts that I learned that amazed me. The Edmund Fitzgerald did not have a fathometer, a depth finder.
None of them did.
I mean,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Whitefish Point light was out, as was the radio direction finder.
The beacon was out as well. Yeah.
And I talked to Tom Farnquist, the head of the Shipwreck Museum up there. I says, why didn't they fire the generator up? He says, it wouldn't start because the wind was howling so bad, it sucked all the air out of that room.
We're talking the beacon and the light from Whitefish Point?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
Both were gone out.
If you've ever been, you got to go up there, Whitefish Point
I want to go bad.
In Paradise. Oh, you'll love it. I've gone up there many times. It's haunting. Strangely enough, her sister ship, the Arthur B. Homer, when the Fitz went down, they put her in dry dock and checked her out. She had all kind of cracks. They let her sail for a few more years. I don't remember exactly how many more years.
Well, I believe the Fitzgerald was scheduled to go to dry dock after this run,
right,
and go to work on some of those welds that they
she
knew
had
were
issues.
stressed.
She had serious issues.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know that's another reason my dad never recovered, because he knew about these issues. What's strange is that they never reported us until I'll think of his guy's name here, Fred Shannon. He dove on the boat with a mini submarine. Came up with pictures. The port side pilot house door was dogged open. Now, if you got 75-mile-an-hour winds, why would you have that port side door open, dogged open?
What's the answer?
I don't have an answer. But to this day, they got pictures shows wide open. Now, when Fred Shannon dove, and that was the 20th anniversary of the 24th, one of the two, I don't remember. I went up to Port Huron, and that's where I met Frank Mays and Dennis Hale. And
Dennis Hale was a survivor from the Morale.
That is correct.
And Mays was a survivor from the Bradley.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. As they're videoing the bow area, they passed over something. What is that? And they back up, and it was a body. They said Superior never gives up his dead, which is true. But they could tell forensically that this person had on a K-Pop life jacket, was about 6'2", 6'3", and they narrowed it down to the crew members who was that tall, and it was one of the wheelsmen. So, out of respect for the family, he the propeller of the submarine, they made a big cloud of dust. So they didn't. So in the actual video he releases, you can't really make it out. But I've been to Jim Clary's studio, and he had the actual video, and you could see it plain as day. So that's the only body that they could see on the outside of it. I think when he was wheeling, and when them pilot house windows busted all out, it flushed him right out. Everybody else went down the staircase down to the lower.
But they're all still on the ship.
Oh, there's no question about that. No question about that. And my uncle had seniority, so usually the watch they like the best is the 48 watch, and went down to 710. So I'm pretty sure my uncle was on watch at the time she went.
See, I used to hold the opinion that with 26,000 tons of taconite, with the plates welded together, it wasn't riveted together. The ship, it was stressed. It was taking on water. I always believed that it broke in half and just fell. But I'm starting to adjust that thought. In the end, we'll never know. Yes, I mean,
Bernie Cooper's son was at that memorial thing I told you about, where Frank Mays and Dennis Hale was at. His dad had passed away, so I didn't get a chance to talk to Bernie himself, but I talked to his son, and he said it was his opinion that they were way too close to that chummy bank. They bottomed out, and when them 3 big waves came, he nosedived, right? Because he's there, and here comes the snow. Interesting. Here comes a snow squall. They can't see the Fitzgerald no more. When the snow squall clears 2 minutes later, there ain't no Fitzgerald. Now, if something would have broken half on, something's going to take more than 2 minutes, I would think. I mean, you would. But that's why she nosedived right in. Yeah, when Bernie Cooper said he had waves cresting over his pilot house, and that's 30, 35 feet off the water, buddy, that's some serious, serious waves. The whole crew used to come out to my mom and dad's house when we lived in Oregon there. We had a pool table down there. They'd come down there because the Fitzgerald was not a self-unloader. So it took about 8, 9, 10 hours for them big Hewletts. Did you ever see they go down? Sure. They'd come out to the house and start drinking, man. I'm telling you, big parties. Oh, man, let me tell you. But she was heading into the dry dock, That's what she had issues. Just leave it go at that. But a lot of freighters had issues out there because it's a lot of wear and tear.
Sure.
Excuse me, especially if you had 26,000 tons of taconite.
With water sloshing around because you're taking on water.
Well, bottom line is the Coast Guard should not have allowed them to run summer load lines in November. She'd had 3 extra feet. They'd have made it in Whitefish Bay. I can't tell you about now, but I know right after that, all ships that had permission to have that summer load lines in the winter, they rescinded it. You're going back to what that ship was designed for. Come November 1st, you're reducing your draft by at least 3 feet. Not only is she doing this, but she's doing one of these numbers. My brother Tom will tell you that. He used to scare the heck out of him. So she had issues, but she did set all these records. But once again, just like you asked a little bit ago, why did he Anderson make it? Well, they had extra bulkheads there. They had 5 cargo holds. And why did they go bigger cargo holds? Ease of loading and unloading. Hurry up and get this boat back out there. Don't make no money at the dock. You got to get up there, load and unload. And she set records for years and years and years and years. Beautiful boat. My God, the accommodations were just
Spectacular.
You know, my dad was on the reserve. I remember his stateroom, the chief stateroom, had a sunken tub with marble, inlay all over the place. This was they spared no expense on these boats. And you've probably seen these videos on YouTube of the divers in the Detroit River, watching these freighters come down on the bottom. They're this far off the bottom. If they load another foot, they'd be pushing mud all through the Detroit River. That's how deep these things are.
And whatever else they're going to run into.
Or whatever else. Like when the Westcott sank up there, the mail boat. I remember if you remember that happened or not. They had to get that boat up right away. They couldn't run traffic down through there because if they hit that Westcott, they might have punch a hole in the bottom of the boat. So they had to raise it right away. It's just the Fitz was overloaded and the weather. They got caught in a terrible, terrible, terrible storm. One of the worst storms.
If not the worst.
In history.
The worst that either captain had been in.
Right. Well, the bad storm of 1913 took a whole bunch of ships.
That's true.
But they were old. Oh, did you know, seriously, this is pay attention, people. We're learning here. There was 2 Edmund Fitzgeralds.
The man? The president of the life insurance company, you mean? Whom the ship was named after?
No. All right, here we go.
You mean a sister
ship?
In
1870, the first Fitzgerald was built. It was a wooden sailing ship. And on November 14th, 1883, off a Long Point, she got caught in a bad storm and went down off a Long Point. And if you think of Lake Erie, the big long thing goes, that's Long Point, and the currents, and there's an old sailing ship. That was the first one to go down. And you wonder, why would you name a ship of another ship that already sank? This is like bad luck or something,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah. Let's see if I got anything else written here. Oh, those clamps that they said were not dug down. When I sailed on the Steelton, that was a Bethlehem steel boat. Didn't matter the weather at all. That captain made us go out and dug down every C-clamp. And they're about this far apart.
Mm-hmm.
Good weather or not. Now, that was a Sunday when they left, right? And that means the guys were on overtime. And their complacency ran in. They did this thing, how many runs all summer? They did every third hatch clamp, They got pictures of these hatches. They're not even dug down. Some of them are. But to say that that's off limits, I mean, how many cemeteries do you know you're not allowed to go in? I mean, think about it. I mean, I feel bad they're down there. I understand that.
Yeah.
But you got the Battle of the Bulge over there in Europe. You got thousands of GIs still buried over there. You can visit these things. She was christened on June
7th?
June 8th, 1958. She was christened 729 feet long, 75 feet deep, 39 feet high, 25,500 tons of cargo. Well, they cheated on that a little bit, no problem there. But they shouldn't have been loaded that deep in November.
Yeah.
Can I show you a picture of my Uncle Grant?
Of course. I'd love to see a picture of your Uncle Grant. Ralph
G. Walton. And on that new
Walton.
bell that they put in place,
Yeah.
they've got a replica of that right there at Whitefish Point.
Mm-hmm.
His name is right in the middle, right big, Ralph G. Walton. I mean, it's not in the sides. You can see it plain as day. Wow. I'm so proud of that.
That's
because
so
my
cool.
family started sailing in 1939. Here's my dad.
That's your dad?
That's a Columbia Transportation hat he's got on.
That's your dad?
That's my dad.
Wow.
Here's my Uncle Grant.
Uncle Grant?
That's my Uncle Grant. He went down on the Fitz.
Uncle Grant went down on the Fitzgerald.
Yes, sir.
I can see your uncle and your father and you.
I swear he looked like that the last time I saw him. Chris and I got married on Valentine's Day. But the last time I saw him, was, if you just knew it was the last time, you could say something different.
Sure.
But memories being what they are. Now, I've got something for you.
A pair of scissors?
Yes.
Wow. Always wanted my own pair of
Don't get
scissors.
no. This is an actual line from the lifeboat after the sinking.
Wow. From the Fitz?
This is from the Fitzgerald's lifeboat right here. You see the red bottom paint on it there?
Yeah.
And what I want to do, with your permission, if you'll be so kind as to tell me to take care of it, I'd like to give you a little piece of this for your memorabilia at home.
Oh my God, that
Would
would
you-
be
would that-
absolutely fascinating.
It's
Now,
not much,
this-
but it's the real thing here.
But that line came from one of the lifeboats.
That's correct,
of the
because they
Edmund
had like you
Fitzgerald.
could hold on. You'd have to, if it's rough, you got to hold on to something.
Sure. Wow.
But you're a history guy, and I can't think of anybody else I'd rather. And I've never shared this. I've never even showed it to anybody except family members.
God, that's so
But
cool.
take a look at it. Yeah, it's fine. That's the actual line from the lifeboat after the sinking. So if it could talk,
That's like getting Abraham Lincoln's autograph for me.
well, if you'll promise to take care of it, and
I'll
let me give you a piece of it. You're
I'll
the first
frame
one
it.
I've ever done this with.
Wow.
That's for you,
Thank
my
you
good
so
man.
much.
From the Fitzgerald after it sank. Now, not too many people can say that.
That is super cool. That'll go in a frame behind glass.
That's the real deal there. And if you need me to sign a certificate of authenticity, I got no problems doing that. I think, but out of that came some good things. One, survival suits. Came right after they go. This is it. You got to have them survival suits. And I've been on deliveries around Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, where whether you are Queen, we brought it around from Warren, Rhode Island. I was the only one on that boat to have a survival suit, and I'm telling you what, I was scared heebie-jeebies out of it a couple times. It was so rough out there, so rough. And I will say this: I will never complain about the cost of lobster. Watch these little 30-foot lobster boats, what they go through to get lobsters out there. Don't ever complain, because these guys are nuts. I mean, they could die so easy, But that's what came out of that was the survival suits. Would that have helped? Well, yeah, Bernie Cooper turned around and went back out. My dad, now, the next day, the reserve went through the locks because the storm had blown out. And they're looking for debris and survivors. He did not know that his brother was on that boat at the time. When they finally got up to Taconite Harbor or Silver Bay, wherever they're at, he called my mom, and she gave him the bad news. He had no idea that Uncle Grant had bumped onto the Fitzgerald. So he took it real hard, and he never recovered from it. He never, ever recovered from it. He retired the very next year, and...
one of the most interesting things about the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald to me is one that's rarely ever talked about, at least in the conversations I've had, is the difference in weather between November 9th and November 10th. When the Fitzgerald left Superior, Wisconsin, early afternoon, November 9th, it was a picture-perfect, beautiful day, bright blue, sunny skies, unseasonably warm temperatures. The wind had barely even picked up yet. The crew could not have known the hell that was coming their way the very next day. Blizzard conditions, storm warnings that could have very well have been hurricane warnings. In the end, they could not have known what was coming their way, and they're all so excited. They were going home. This was their last run of the 75 season. They knew they were going home for the holidays. They were so excited, and they just didn't get there. History just didn't play out that way. In regards to what happened, we'll never know for sure. We all have our opinions, of course, based on the facts we understand, but we're never going to know for sure. But what I believe happened, in fact, I've done an about face on this. I thought at one time, just last year, I was clinging to what I thought happened, and that would be that it broke in half on the surface and just fell like a rock with 26,000 tons of iron ore. It stressed out, twisted, and broke, which is possible, but I think the evidence leans in the other direction. I do believe it bottomed out at 6 Fathom Shoals near Caribou Island. Didn't have their radars, didn't know where they were. They were too close. Captain Bernie Cooper certainly thought so from the Anderson, and it bottomed out. It was taking on water. We know that. Whether it was coming in from the bottom or coming in from the top, I believe it was coming mostly from the bottom. It was taking on water. It was losing its ability to float. It was losing buoyancy. It was sinking. We talk about those 3 sister waves that came. They were having consistently 20, 25-foot seas, but there were some that would come by at 30 and 35 feet, because Bernie Cooper even said they were breaking over his pilot house. You know how high those things are in the air. So I think it got, by then the winds were coming west-northwest, so it had the whole Lake Superior to build up in those waves. It got hit with a monster wave that just lifted that stern and drove it down. And by then it had lost its buoyancy, lost its ability to float. It just couldn't come back from that and kept going. I think the real question is whether it broke when it hit the bottom of the lake floor. We knew it landed pretty hard at an angle. Question is, did it break when it hit, or was it already broke before it got there? I think kind of a little bit of both, you know, as that thing twisted and turned. I think the break, the tear, was already beginning, and when that stern lifted up, well, I think it really started to tear, and as it went down, and hit the bottom, well, that's when it definitely severed, and the tear was complete. I used to think that, you know, the pieces were too far apart. You know, I don't think that anymore. I mean, that ship was 729 feet long, and much of the center section is completely gone, reduced to steel rubble. So I don't think the pieces are too far apart. Was it coming apart on the way up and the way down? Probably. And then it tore for good when it landed at the bottom of Lake Superior. That's what I think happened. Again, in the end, it doesn't really matter. It's all about the 29 men we lost. And, you know, one of my big takeaways from this, from listening to Captain Darrell Walton, was his father, Wade William Walton, who he believes is the 30th victim. And I would tend to believe that. Wade lost his brother, Ralph Grant Walton, on the great ship. He lost 28 close friends. He had survived the Battle of Bulge before he ever became the chief engineer on the Edmund Fitzgerald. Can you imagine what he witnessed in World War II in the Battle of the Bulge? I mean, he had seen it all. And in the end, I don't think he could deal with it, could process it. As Darrell said, he began drinking and eventually became the 30th victim of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And I think that's a story you haven't heard yet. I would certainly ring the old ship's bell one more time for Wade William Walton, the 30th victim of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I hope you enjoyed my coverage of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Look for more in the weeks, months, years ahead. This story isn't going away. I'm going to bring it back every year for sure. For the History Mystery Man, I'm Don Radebaugh. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate your support so much. Thank you so much, everyone.